Hey everybody, this is Desu from Desu Plays. Hello. I today am going to talk to you all about Corporea, as well as one way in which you can use Corporea to create a really cool Botania only tree farm. And I'm going to show you how it all works, kind of explain the details for it for you, and tell you what it can do and about how much mana it produces roughly, uh, and just kind of talk about the cool stuff there. So let's get started right away. So Corporea, if you haven't used it, is really, really cool. It is a different means of setting up piping between your chests and infrastructure, allowing you to maneuver items around as you want. It kind of combines the idea of various pipings and computer systems that you might see in other mods, and I personally like it because I think it looks really cool and it's kind of pretty and it does some interesting stuff. And again, if you're going to do a flower mod, it better look pretty, right? So this is one of the things that was done very well. Uh, so this is your Corporea index. You do not need this to make a Corporea network, but frankly, there's no reason not to have one and to hook everything up to it. So you make a master spark, stick it on your Corporea index, and for your first one, and this networks, you can do this by right-clicking with your wand to see where it all networks um, to all of the other Corporea sparks in your network. Now you can dye the little flowers here that are floating around with any dye, any floral part or dye you want, and that'll make them separate networks so you can have multiple networks with a bunch of different colors. I dyed them all black because it matched my color scheme. I regret that. I constantly have to get new black flowers. Just if you only have one network, just do white and save yourself the trouble. Anyway, these are crystal cubes. They count how many individual blocks of a specific type, which you can just place in there by hitting right click with that block in your hand, and it doesn't even take the block, are in your network, which is really useful. So you can see over here, I've got like, I turned on my tree farm the other day. I've got 33k wood right now, 44k saplings, and 42k charcoal for my burning process still. And you can also see I'm still producing quite a bit of birch and birch saplings. My cobblestone here gets converted into stone automatically as well, so that's all really great. Now the way this works basically is these are regular Corporea sparks. They're made very cheaply. You can find the recipe in the, well, they're not super cheap. You have to have access to the Elfane portal to make this all work, but once you do, and if you get any kind of Ender Lily farm going on, they're really cheap because it really just requires some pixie dust and an Ender Air bottle and a spark, and none of that's too expensive for late game builds. So that's the nice part. Now, you can see all my chests down here are individually accessed to it. For whatever reason, sometimes when I log in or boot up, I can't see the whole network, but basically you've got about an 8 block difference on how far you can place these. The 10th, the 9th and 10th block distance is the block that it's actually on. So there are 8 empty spaces between you and the next Corporea spark to get it all to work. So this one actually can only reach here. I think this one and those two, but then this one, this one, and this one, and this one can reach these, so they're part of the network as well. And this can reach that chest, which then reaches to this funnel. And my whole network runs through all of these chests. You can see all the purplish sparks here. Those are the ones all the way over to here where I've got a bunch more. And all the way using tiny chests in this mod. If you put a chest, this is the regular size chest. Well, that's just a disappointment. I'll find one for you and show it to you because they're adorable. You can put a chest in a grid and it'll craft a tiny one item chest, which counts for Corporea. So I've got them stacked in various places to, you can see, it's just the cutest little thing. They're great for giving friends one gift. But you can see every 8 blocks, I've got a Corporea spark floating through the air here to ensure that my network actually makes it. And then all the way over here is where I have my Corporea network on the other side. Now, one index, you do not have to have just one index. I have an index in 2 different rooms, which means I can, anytime I want, just walk up to this and type something I want. For example, I don't know, charcoal. And into my inventory it goes, it's taken. You see that little flashing thing there. This is helpful for people who are lazy like me, have a bunch of chests everywhere, and want to just toss my stuff into a chest and not worry about it. So most of my chests are kind of just general storage chests unless they're up against piping. So I can just throw stuff in there and call for it when I need it. And that's really helpful. It's also really great for mechanation. For example, this Lunium is really expensive on mana and produces rare drops from different kinds of chests and stuff you might find hidden in dungeons, etc. And it's picked up by this hopper hawk, which then shoves them into these chests. Okay, and I don't have anything in the items. I was trying to figure out why it wasn't picking things up. If you don't know this, hopper hawks will not place into chests that are not on the same plane as them. And also be warned, hopper hawks placed near a mana pool have a ton of range unless you place the hopper hawk first and put the mana pool down next to get it to just be disassociated from that mana pool so that its range is shortened. It's still a ton of range. They have a wide radius. It can pick up stuff all the way up here. If I don't stand on this index, it actually steals things from me, which is a terrible pain. But you see the network goes all over the place here, and this is really critical for Botania mechanation, various kinds of industrialization. And I'm going to get into the details of how this whole farm works later, because this whole structure is basically one power plant. But you can see all my mana spreaders are firing mana from this power plant over here. Now, I wanted this to look very beautiful. I built a greenhouse around it, and I'm going to jump in and explain all the details on exactly what works, why it works, and how it works. And you're probably going to get to see it work right here real quick, which is going to be fun. So while it's doing its thing, the munch dews, which are these flowers right here, will eat the leaves off of these trees. And munch dews have sort of a cooldown, so they don't do it immediately, but they will eat the leaves off the trees. Okay, and they'll eat a fair number of the leaves, but they don't go beneath their little aura, and they do go above it about 3 or 4 blocks. So they won't eat the whole tree. Here it goes. Fires into this mana spreader. Mana spreader. Nope, I have a really long reach on this ring. Let me toss those. Fires a pulse into this pool, which has a recessive spark on it. This recessive spark sends the mana into pools that are underneath on the bottom side of all of these mana spreaders. Okay, and I'm using Elven mana spreaders here, so this is a late game build, but it's also one of the first major mana farms I got together because it was really, really efficient, and it produces a lot of excess loot you can use for things like wood and saplings to burn and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of value in this build. Especially if you're just doing pure Botania. There's a better way to do it that you don't necessarily need Botania for, and it's probably faster and easier, but I really liked it. And you'll notice this is the same design that's on the website of Botania. We figured out how to do it. I've made some improvements, a few things that occasionally don't work right, and I'll explain that in a second, but I love it. So the mana pool underneath here, it supplies mana from this mana pool up here, from this Elven mana spreader, and goes through a resistance lens, which increases duration of the pulse without loss, and then it goes through this mana prism with a bore warp lens on it, and that lens allows it to be fired through other objects into this mana pool. So you trick the Elven mana spreader into trying to fire at this mana pool. Instead, it hits this force relay, which is attached to, in this case, we'll do this one. So this one's attached to this dirt block right here. Now this dirt block is the origin point for the mana pulse to continue following its original trajectory. So it's going to go all the way up to this, which is about, I think, 7 or 8 blocks up, which makes sure that the trees grow short enough to be consumed. And that's why you use either birch or oak. The short oak trees are good as well. You could probably use forestry trees for this if you bred them to be short. So that would be something else you could do. But this bounces then automatically to here, which bounces up to here. Fires up to there, which bounces to here, fires to there. This bounces it into the block below this mana pool, which then takes whatever residual mana is left and uses it. The other thing that's kind of been annoying about this pool being here, even though I like it, is unfortunately if I toss a tablet in there, it does get picked up by these hopper hawks. And so as of right now, I'm not using this extra mana that's produced here, but you could in theory just either uproot your hopper hawks or put the redstone signal to pause them or what have you. So there's a couple of different options you can do there. Now that's how everything gets broken and the mana recollected. Now breaking blocks uses mana, so to an extent you're not going to see a huge return on that part, though it's not terrible. You can fill up about a mana pool every day or so, which is sizable, especially early on. But by the time you're able to make this thing, you can do much better. So you break all your wood, your tree gets tree capitated, everything falls down, a bunch of saplings drop, a bunch of wood drops. They get picked up by the hopper hawk and stored into these 2 chests. I made sure there's 2 chests and they're iron chests because I have a tendency on these things to create a large amount of wood and other consumables, and so it's good to have enough. Now, the nice thing about these hopper hawks is, like, you can see this one has enough range to get to the other chests. So if this one's full, this one will be filled instead, and that's kind of nice. Now, that solves the destruction process, but you have to replant these, and you won't have to do it by hand, right? So you'll notice the hopper hawks are on podzol, and that slows them down in their process of replanting, so that these rennet and carpus can work. Now, if you've never used this before, just keep this in mind. It's like the one thing that really annoyed me when I first didn't understand why these things weren't working. So the floating version of this thing does the block immediately below it. So if you have a dirt block here and you put your rennet and carpus on top of it, it's a floating rennet and carpus. A rennet and carpus. If you put a floating one on top of it, it'll use the dirt block as its place block because it's gonna be programmed to place only on the block that is above. Okay. If you use a regular one, it doesn't use the dirt block that is planted on because of course it has to be planted on dirt. It uses the block below that, so you have to go 2 down. So underneath this dirt block is in fact another dirt block, which allows me to place it on all of this dirt that's locked here and not on everything else. For example, if there's a laboratory block underneath this, it would just be trying to plant saplings or whatever items were dropped on this, whatever blocks were dropped on this, which is not possible, of course. So I think I might be stealing things that are being manufactured over here. Let me put those away. The solanolias are important because I have a ring of magnetization, which I might just take off, and it's the greater one, and I'm using it for my monocle, right? And it has a habit of just sucking everything up, which ruins your process here. The agricarnations are optional, but they speed up the rate at which these trees are grown. And occasionally, I've noticed, for whatever reason, this gets a little stuck in the process. It seems to sort itself out either by disconnecting or reconnecting, and it just kind of like gets the pacing back together. Another little bug I've noticed is when I re-chunk load frequently, these dirt blocks will show up broken, which is not supposed to happen. So if you have one, a Rod of the Highlands is really great for that because you could just, one, it places dirt blocks in midair, which is awesome for building, and 2, it gives you infinite dirt as long as you have mana, and that's just super nice. So this is the most important thing that I built, and I'm just going to take these off so you can see it, because this was how I got this whole thing to automate in a way that wasn't a pain and actually looks pretty decent. And that was a big deal for me because my initial construction was kind of clunky and ugly, and I really wanted it to be compact with minimal impact. So the way this works is this Corporea funnel is set to pick up birch saplings. When a redstone signal is sent from this hovering hourglass, which has a 15-second timer on it, and I found 15 seconds just through trial and error. You could go less or more. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is that I didn't want there to be too many coming in here, that they were just dropping in large numbers, right? And so you'll notice there's only ever like one here, really. It seems to be about the right tick speed for this hopper hawk to come pick it up. It goes into a hopper because it's the inventory item beneath a Corporea funnel. It gets fired into this open crate through the hopper, but the hopper is on a redstone delay from this carpenter's pressure plate, and that allows me to tell this to not flood this with a bunch of saplings. Now the saplings themselves, if they are getting close to expiring, get picked up automatically and recycled through by the hopper hawk. So that's why it's important they're on podzol so that the rennet and carpus can have a chance. And I mean, that's it. That's the whole rig. So this thing was reasonably expensive to get because these are pretty cheap to actually get, but they take a bit of time to get the resource requirements for, because you have to go through the Alfheim portal to get them, and everything else is reasonably cheap. Like the hopper hawks are cheap, the random carpus are cheap, reasonably so anyway. It's not too bad. The Bellathorns here, they run off a little extra mana surplus here, and that really helps because monsters like to spawn places. I don't have enough lights, and I just keep solving that problem by making sure they die. So that's good. The hopper hawks, a nice thing about them is they can be set up to only pick up items that are on item frames, so they won't just pick up everything dropped in the area, so I'm not getting a bunch of random mob loot I don't need. Though again, you could totally use that to your advantage. You can build it however you want. So let me go ahead, put this back together real quick, but I just thought I'd show you how that works. It's really compact, And that was a big deal, again, because I wanted it to be pretty. I wanted it to be unimposed. And these covers really help make it look nice, and the whole thing kind of is concise. So all that, okay, all that is the tree farm. It's automated. It does its own thing. For the most part, you can leave it alone. Occasionally you have to replace a dirt block, whatever. All right, but that's not really where your mana generation is, all right? Your mana generation comes from the endo flames. The endo flames here are burning coal dropped on this pressure plate. This pressure plate is hooked up to a hopper, which is attached to an open crate, just like down there, same design. But what I've done instead is I've put a furnace on top of the open crate, or on top of the hopper, and then the Corporea funnel on top of the furnace. So the furnace is filled up by the Corporea funnel. I think I do it like every 8 seconds here. This singular exoflame is actually enough to run the furnace really efficiently, but I've got more for the rest of my cooking here. Okay, and these actually are within range, so they're helping out. They're burning the coal, or burning into charcoal. This produces a ton of mana. So like this produces like an average of like 1 mana pool per day. This will produce if you've got enough wood running it, and I find that this can be actually a little too efficient sometimes and chew through all your wood. But it can seriously produce like 4 to 6 mana pools a day really easily. And you know, I don't mean like a Minecraft day either. I mean like within like a 12-hour period or so, you'll probably see like 6 or so mana pools. I've seen a little bit more than that even. It just kind of depends on like how chunk loaded this area is, on how much mana you're producing here. And I know it seems like not that much, but mana pools have a ton of mana storage. Like the actuality of a full mana pool is pretty significant, especially at mid-level Minecraft, mid-level Botania mod. So it's reasonably significant. You can scale, well, you can kind of scale this up a little bit. This farm is of course somewhat limited and was resource intensive, but this was really the beginning and the beautiful picture that brought me to the forestry farm, which is over there, and I'm going to explain in the next video. But yeah, this produces a fairly good mid-level, medium range mana production. It's automated. It handles itself. You don't have to go mining for all the coal to feed your exo flames or endo flames, which was a really big pain originally, trying to get enough mana to get it all started. So yeah, so the next part is my superior version of this using the forestry mod integrated into this whole thing. My mana production is absolutely preposterous with this, and with this forestry thing. So you're going to look forward to that. That's really fun. But another thing you can do just to improve this, I chose birch because I was just trying to get it all working, and birch seemed convenient. I had some on hand. I also like the tree color. If you use oak, you can harvest apples. If you use those apples can be fed into Gormorialises, which can be basically just summoned like this. You just use a Corporea funnel with a apple in it, and it'll one of these. And I find that like I think this is like 10 seconds maybe. It just pulls an apple up. 2 of these produce so much mana. Like this and this, if they're fed properly, will produce you a ton of mana really easily, allow you to do basically anything you want with the Botania mod, except maybe use one of the wands that just chews through it. That wand being the Rod of the Terra Firma. That thing uses so much mana. But other than that, you can pretty much do whatever you want with Botania with that setup alone. So that's everything for this part. I'm coming back in a little bit here. I'm going to do the forestry tree farm mod version of this, and enjoy that. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you see how this all works. If you have questions, please feel free to post them. I will probably be able to answer them for you. I kind of gave you the overview because I'm assuming you understand the basics already. So thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.